our next speaker. This talk is called One Drop at a Time. Our next speaker is the co-founder and managing director of OTC Comedy in Cedar City, Utah, the co-founder of the Red Rocks Improv Festival, which Roland and I had the privilege of doing a few years back, and the camp director of Camp Improv Utopia West. Please give it up for Wendy Penrod.
Hi. Pew, 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 pew. Hey, thank you. Oh, I like the pew, pew, pews. Whoever did that, thank you. As I said, I'm Wendy Penrod. I'm from Cedar City, Utah. Where is that? Some of you might be saying. We're a very small rural town in southern Utah. And when I was thinking about progress and what progress looks like, I want to talk a little bit about yourself as an improviser and your progress as you move through things and how to look at it. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about our theater, the story of OTC Comedy. So it all started when a bunch of us got together at a university doing an improv club. Found like-minded people. We were learning improv really fast. We were really excited. The university asked us to come do a couple of shows for them, which was like, what? We're going to do shows? So we went and did that. Those went really well, which we were like, maybe we should do shows on a regular basis. Went to a coffee shop, said, hey, can we do shows here? They were like, sure. We were like, awesome. We held auditions. People were excited. 100 people showed up to our first show. We were like, what is happening? We eventually moved on to a hotel that was a much bigger, like, conference room kind of area. We bought our own stage. We bought some lights and some sound equipment. Continued. That's when we started discovering festivals and like Camp Improv Utopia and like going outside of ourselves. Then we opened up our own theater, and we had to rip up the carpet and paint and build everything. We did a Kickstarter to help build our stage and our sound booth and really sort of make this space that we had always wanted to do improv in that was suddenly ours to be able to do improv in. We did our Red Rocks Improv Festival, got to meet so many amazing people, opening up it even more. That's going on 11 years running. We've been doing OTC now for 17 years. How much does that age me? Quite a bit. I'm in an amazing group called Ponte's Queen with my two best friends, one of which is my husband. And we go to festivals all over, and we love to do it. And it's this, great thing. And that sounds really nice, doesn't it? It's like, what a great little story. And that sounds real nice. The only problem with that story that I just told you is that it's technically a lie. Because it's a lie by omission. And I left out a lot of things because that story makes the whole thing sound shiny, doesn't it? Right? Those are the big moments of progress, the stepping stones. But what I didn't talk about are the things that got us from one step to another, which is actually an uphill climb. So that makes it all just sound, it just takes out the reality. So now I'm going to share with you some of the more realistic moments that happened as that journey was going on. And those are the moments that I think are actually more important, are the times in our journeys when we feel like we aren't progressing, the times that aren't great, the times that aren't so easy to celebrate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that. So as we're going on, first of all, we said, oh, we want to do improv shows. And I remember very clearly a roommate of mine saying, I give you 2 months. That's what she told me. Nobody wants to pay to see what you guys do. Nobody wants to see playing. So we had a lot of people who did not believe in us. We were actually kicked out of the coffee shop. We didn't just move to a new place. They said, thank you so much, but we don't really want you guys here anymore. That was a hard blow for us, and we felt like maybe this is the end. The university that we went to, that we were alma maters of, didn't support us. In fact, at one point they instituted a policy that said if you were part of us, you couldn't do shows in the theater department at the university. We were all theater majors at the time. So that was another moment for us that we were like, maybe we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Maybe this isn't right. We went to when we went to the hotel, we had to do a 2-hour setup every night because we had to build our stage, literally, and then have it all gone by the time we left. We had to make it look like we were never there. So it was 2 hours before the show, 2 hours after the show, a 6-hour commitment every night to do this improv show. And the woman who owned the restaurant that was connected to the to the hotel hated us, and she did everything she possibly could to get us kicked out, which eventually worked because we got kicked out of there as well. We moved it, and when we moved into our own theater was around the time that we found out that our managing director was actually stealing money off the top from us in quite a large amount of sum, which made sense why things were being weird and the books weren't always adding up. And we found out there was a lot of fudging of things he was doing, which was a huge derailment for us as well. When you have your own theater, money ultimately becomes more important. So finding the joy in just the work became sort of fading. We had a big talk about that one year, where a whole year all of us were sort of like, it's hard to think about the joy of improv when we're all worried about how many people are in the audience. Red Rocks Improv Festival is this amazing thing, but there's always 2 days before it starts that you feel like the whole thing's going to fall apart and there's nothing that we can do. It's never going to work. And then suddenly it just works. Right. So another time, so all of those are real roadblocks, times when the progress was hard to really sort of say like, yes, we're going forward. We're moving forward. Like we want to be moving, or we expected this to be the journey that we were on. In between the hotel and our own theater, we had 6 months where we did shows in a place that sold inflatable bouncy house castles for people on their birthdays. And we went from having about 175 people weekly to our shows to 6. And that was a really tough and dark time for us. But I'm going to talk to you guys about that's the time that while we're filling our bucket up as performers, sometimes it feels like a waterfall. You're filling your bucket up with a waterfall. It's just gushing and you're like, I'm getting better and things are getting better. And sometimes it just feels like one drop at a time. And when you've had the waterfall moments, the drop moments can feel like failures. But here's what I want to talk about. In those times, that is when all of the progress really happens, right? That's when grit is created. That's where you fall back and trust the process. When you come back to the basics, when you say, you know what, we can push through because it's the only thing that we have that's able for us to do. And to always remember in those times when you as an improviser feel like you're not getting better, that the drop is still adding to the bucket. You're still filling your bucket. It doesn't matter how fast the water is flowing. What matters is that there is water flowing. That's what matters. And when you think about a roller coaster, the roller coaster goes up and down. And unless you go downhill, you won't create the momentum that you need to get up to the next hill that's higher than the hill that you came from. So the valleys are really important parts of making sure you can climb the next mountain. You have to get to this point in order to get to this point, or it doesn't work, right? It takes some time. And that you can't underestimate those tougher times because they are the moments that help you realize when things are going well, that they are in fact going well. Or when you talk about your highlight reel, don't forget to leave out the parts that seem like lowlights. When you're telling your story, or when you're thinking back on your improv journey, or you're just looking over the last 30 minutes of improv you did, the last scene or the last show, that the times that feel uncomfortable are as important, if not more so, than the times that we feel like we're flowing, right? And what's really important to remember in all of this is that everybody's journey ebbs and flows. If you meet somebody and they say, my journey has been a constant uphill, they are lying to either you or themselves. Hell, a lot of people lie to themselves, and that's okay. They can do that. But it's the idea of like, if the journey is only this, nobody's learning anything. The learning actually comes from the valleys and to the peaks. And that what you can't do is compare your, like the downtime for you with the upsides of other people. Remember that we live in an Instagram society where what we see is we see everybody's highlight reel. And if you get caught up in thinking, I am seeing their highlight reel and I'm going to compare it to my reality, you're always going to come up short. So remember that it doesn't matter how much water is flowing. You just need a drop, because the drop is still consistently working to fill up the bucket. And another good thing to remember is if the people around you that you play with are getting better, that means you're getting better too. So maybe take a second, look up and notice what other people are doing. Celebrate their progress. Celebrate the moments for you that don't feel like progress, because the water is flowing. And it doesn't matter how fast it's flowing as long as it keeps flowing. So even though you're not going to consistently see waterfall moments, remember, a drop in the bucket is still adding to that progress. Thanks, guys.
Wow, Wendy Penrod.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
Still progress.
Jesus.
Oh. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.